Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Zagans, and I'm the director and flute faculty for Z-Tunes Music. I'm excited to welcome the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra violinist Judith Cox as our clinician today. Judith Cox has been a member of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra since 1994. She came to Atlanta from the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, where she served in both violin sections for 6 years. She was also principal second violin for one season of the Cleveland-based Ohio Chamber Orchestra. With husband and fellow ASO violinist Raymond Lung, Judith founded the nonprofit organization Lyra Inc. in 2000 to serve as a community and educational resource to the city of Atlanta. As a string quartet-based group, Lyra has visited over 100 schools in 8 counties in metro Atlanta, providing chamber music performance, mentoring programs, educational workshops, master classes, lessons, and fellowship programs, so literally thousands of students. For today's clinic, we're all going to stay on mute while Ms. Cox works through the GMEA Violin Audition Excerpt. I suggest you have your copy of the excerpt and a pencil ready to make notes. You can type in any questions as we go, or at the end of her playing you'd like to ask in the chat box, and we'll address them at the end. So thank you, Ms. Cox. Now to you.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. It's very, very nice to see all of you here today. We were actually in a live class. I would be looking at you right now and asking how many of you have started working on the excerpt. And then I'd see a show of hands. I'm sure you probably have all at least looked at the music, right? And I'm looking at it, says quarter note equals 96, which that's the target tempo that we want to have for the audition. But I don't expect that anybody has it at that tempo tonight, although I will be playing it at that tempo when I perform it. And believe it or not, I will be performing it. For everybody who's just beginning it, I would really recommend that you start much slower. But I would also very strongly recommend that you get to be very good buddies with your metronome, because the metronome is really going to help you a lot, not only with your, but for keeping one tempo. And when you take the all-state auditions, any audition that you're taking is going to have really the most important thing in orchestral playing is rhythm. It's even more important than playing all the right notes. But having said that, playing all the right notes is important as well. But rhythm and having a steady tempo, that's what people listen for in auditions more than anything else. So when you get into the audition and they're judging and they're listening, they're going to be listening to see if your tempo is steady. Will you be at quarter note equals 96 at the end of that time? Even if you're maybe a little bit under that, I think that's fine, as long as you keep a steady tempo the whole time. All right. So where do we tend to rush? Again, I wish I had a show of hands, because I would take questions and ask, or I would ask questions and have you answer it. But since y'all are muted, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out some of the ideas that I have, having taught this piece so many times over the years. So at the very beginning, we have real short notes, right? The carets, the wedges that are underneath each note at the very beginning. Those notes followed by an eighth rest. Those are really short notes. They're very articulate notes, and we call them staccato notes. And what you're going to do is you're going to have like that. Just like that. What happens is people will play the note real short, and then they have an eighth rest right after that, and we have that silence right before the next note. So what tends to happen is it just goes faster and faster and faster. The way to keep that from happening is to do something that we call subdivision. And subdivision is where you're not just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, but you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we have. So if you think of the and on all of the rest, that will help to keep from rushing. Another place that people tend to rush is when we have our 16th notes. When we have our 16th notes, we tend to go crazy, okay? Maybe if you only have 4/16 notes, you'll be okay. But if you look down at the fifth line, second measure, okay, there's always a tendency when we have a lot of notes to kind of get ahead of ourselves. So be careful. So if this note is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, the 16th note would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3E and a 4E and a, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Think of it this way: pepperoni, 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 pepperoni. And if you keep that, that's a subdivision of each beat. That will help you to keep from rushing. But more than anything else, I think the metronome is going to help you a lot with this. Um, so and tempo are the two most important things in an audition for Allstate. Then we have to get the right notes. So you'll have to make sure that you're playing the right notes. If you have your orchestra teacher or if you have a private instructor can help you with that. And also, if you watch this video, then you can get an idea of what the notes should be. We have a variety of articulations. We talked about the staccato. Then we have other things. For example, we have accents. For example, in the second measure. So if I play the first two measures, accent. And the way I'm going to play that accent is I'm going to move my bow really fast at the beginning of that slur, and that'll make that accent pop out. Then you'll see that there's a dash on that quarter note right after the slur. So that's going to be completely different articulation. We want that to be very smooth and connected and long. But then we're back in the third measure to short, and so on and so on. What else? What else? Do pay attention to the difference between the dashes and the dots. Okay. Then beyond that, so we have rhythm, tempo, playing the right notes, and then playing the right notes in tune. I mean, I guess if you're playing the right notes, then they're going to be in tune, right? So those are really at the top of the list. Then beyond that, we have articulation, we have accents, and then we have dynamics. Dynamics are important too. There really isn't a whole lot marked here except forte at the very beginning. Then you have all the way down. If you look down, count with me from the top, the first line, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. In second measure, you see something DOLCE, dolce in Italian. Dolce in Italian means sweet. Well, sweet and forte don't necessarily go together. So when we think of something a little bit softer, so you probably want to do it mezzo something. And it's a real contrast from all of the stuff that you've been doing before. And then dolce. That's a very, very smooth, very connected, very long. Okay. Crescendo, 4 lines from the bottom. You'll see that third measure in, there's a crescendo back to forte. And then you're back to the music that you were doing at the very beginning. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to do a playthrough of this right now. And let me get set up here. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a playthrough, and then when I'm done, then if you have questions, then you can ask me your questions. What I'd be really curious is as you're watching me, listening to me, and looking with the music, if I'm doing everything that I said that you should do, and if I am not doing some of the things, I want you to tell me. but as well, I'd like to hear your observations if you feel like it. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is find my handy metronome, and I have a metronome app. It's called Pro Metronome, and I have it set on 96. And for this class, I'm putting my earbud in so that I'm going to have my metronome going in my ear while I'm playing. And that's so that I can keep the right tempo. All right, here we go. Okay. Let's see if I can get this. Oh, okay.
That was great. Do we have any questions from the kids? From the students here? Feel free to type in the chat box or even raise your hand if you'd like. I had a quick question. So I was wondering, like when we go to teach these to students or when students are learning those, where would be like an opportunity or two where they can really stand out from other players?
Everything I mentioned, steady tempo, contrast in your dynamics, bringing out the dynamics, bringing out everything that's on the page. You know, like um, have a lot of bite. Does anybody know how to make that bite happen? You know the bite I'm talking about on those staccato notes? Anybody? So it's this sound, right? That's not even, that's a noise. It's not even a sound, right? It's ugly. There's no pitch to it. We call that ictus, right? And it's better than, right? This is you hear that, you hear the bite? The bite comes from really pressing really hard at the beginning of each bow stroke. That's going to pop out. That pops out and boom, catches the listener's ear right away.
Here was one question from Lee, or it could be Leah, I'm not quite sure. What would you recommend to practice intonation?
The long answer is scales. The short answer is learn it a couple lines at a time. Find the passages and find the measures that repeat. I mean, there's a lot of repetition in there in this, isn't there? A lot of measures that tend to repeat. For example, the first two measures, that comes back at the end, doesn't it? Or it comes back in the fourth line from the bottom. And in fact, that whole passage, like for well at least 5 or 6 measures, exactly the same as the beginning. So you want to find the same music and then try to compare it. And that's that's one way, but you do have to go through and learn bit by bit. Don't try to bite off the whole thing. And like I said before, slow practice is better than fast practice, because slow practice gives your ear a chance to hear if something's right or not, and also a chance to fix it.
Perfect. Edric asked, my teacher told me to play the staccato notes on the upper half of the bow. Is it better to play in the lower half?
Well, there are difference in kind of approaches. I play it in the lower half. If I see, if I see a carrot like that, that's a real heavy bow stroke. I mean, you can do it in the upper half. But I like this better. It could be just a personal preference, but I like the sound and the bite in the lower half.
Great. Were there any other questions? All right. I don't see anything else there, but thank you, Miss Judith Cox, for your valuable insight. I know I learned a lot, and I'm not even a violinist. So, and good luck to everyone on your upcoming audition. I know everything's a little bit different this year, but we're so proud of you guys for sticking this out and for working hard on this and still auditioning for Allstate. Look out for more communication from Z-Tunes on lessons and upcoming clinics for Allstate and more. And everyone have a great week. Thank you, Miss Judith.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Good luck, everybody.